Revenge, revenge. Looking for another great revenge story that will give you that revenge high? Meet Se-young, a boy who was abused and bullied throughout his middle school life to reach a point where he was brutally beaten half to death and was put into a comatose state by his bullies. The crime was so severe that even the police investigators were shocked that a group of middle school kids could do such a thing, and it made national news. While in a comatose state, his loving parents were trying everything they can to protest and gain justice for him, but to no avail, because all of the 8 bullies that hurt their son have very wealthy, powerful, and influential families that are tied to the government, essentially manipulating everything into their favor to protect their children. Throughout Se-yeon's parents' efforts, it didn't matter at how much they got the internet or media to call for justice of severe punishments for the bullies. In the end, it was unfair ruling from the Korean court that all of Se-yeon's bullies got a slap on the wrist and were not sent to jail, and they were all sent away to abroad by their families to avoid the controversies and outrage from the public. It wasn't until Se-yeon found out about all this after he had woken up from his 9 months in comatose state and was told by his aunt of what had happened, that his parents had been burnt to death during their protests and that he had practically lost everything. Se-yeon, feeling shocked and devastated by the news, went into depression of locking himself in from society. 2 years goes by and he is still a shut-in, never leaving his apartment, and in his despair of not being able to move on from what had happened, all he has been doing is desperately trying to figure out his revenge while spying on his bullies that are overseas by hacking into their group chat and such, spending every day just obsessed in doing research about his bullies and their family's backgrounds, as well as watching an online video of someone capturing the moment when his parents were being burnt to death, so he could never forget his hatred. But in the end, what could he do to get his revenge? He is physically weak and powerless, and he doesn't have the wealth and influence that his bullies has. All he could do is just spy on them and know that one day his bullies will try to get their revenge on him because of what his parents did to expose them and damage their reputation. Hence, this is probably one of the reasons why he feels hopeless for the future and refuses to go outside to society, because he fears that he will make it easier for them to find him. Then one day, while he was asleep, he hears a loud crash on his rooftop, which scares him awake, but he goes to investigate the source. He goes towards the door that leads to his rooftop, to where the crash came from. Apprehensive of thinking his bullies had finally made a move on him, he tries to build the courage and eventually opens the door, expecting the worst, but all he finds is a flaming sword that is wedged on his roof. Super confused about the whole situation, he goes back to sleep and thinks that he's just seeing things. Strangely, the sword gave him strange dreams, and he could feel it call for him. He wakes up the next day, opens the rooftop door, and the sword is still there, in flames again. He then tries to put out the flames, but strangely the flames couldn't be put out by conventional means. As days passes, he spends his time trying to put out the flames, and eventually he succeeds, approaches the sword and grabs onto the sword, and immediately felt its power, that it was a sword that was not from this world, and he could feel the magic power flow within him. Eventually realizing the sword's potential, a thought came that with this power, he realized he can achieve in taking his revenge. With a newfound motivation, he starts training on how to wield it, with exercising and practicing sword techniques, and as time goes by, as he kept pushing himself to do more and get stronger, training every day on his rooftop, enduring the physical pain, motivated by the one goal to destroy all his enemies, a powerful monster was being born. Another year goes by, and by then the public outrage of what had happened to Se-yeon and his parents were now long forgotten, and these rich bullies are now allowed to come back to Korea. Oh, and they all definitely want their revenge on getting exposed like that by Se-yeon's family. They even went as far as to hire a team of agents to track his exact location, as well as preparing for years and coming up with very careful and expensive ways to make Se-yeon's life a living hell. It didn't take long for them to figure out where Se-yeon was hiding, as these bullies are all eagerly wanting to set their plan to motion and happily torture Se-yeon altogether. But one of the bullies who couldn't hold his excitement, so he decided to go first to where Se-yeon was hiding by himself with a personal guard, telling the guard to wait outside the building while he heads inside and tries to break into Se-yeon's apartment, find Se-yeon, and be the first one to give him a good welcome beating and torture. That was the plan, and as he kept going closer and closer to Se-yeon's apartment until finally reaching its door, which menacingly opened itself for the bully to enter, they all had no idea what they were actually getting into, and all the preparations in the world couldn't prepare them for what they were about to face, a true monster. A little while after, the group of bullies were wondering what had happened to their friend, who went to Se-yeon's apartment first with his bodyguard. It's been 2 days and no word from them. Frustrated but eager to know what had happened to their friend, they then hired a gang to go investigate and to bring back Se-yeon back to them. These gangsters goes and raid Se-yeon's apartment building, thinking that it was an overkill job just to grab a kid. But again, no response. What the hell was happening, these bullies thought. How can a simple job of capturing a 17-year-old kid be so difficult? They all decide to meet up in one place, a place where they're hoping to drag Seion to probably torture him. So again, this time they hired a professional and strong Japanese agents to go capture Seion and bring him back to them. And again, no response from those agents. But then a phone call came that would send all of these bullies into a panic, that whoever took down all their men that they have been sending was now heading towards their location. They would never imagine that a monster could exist in their world. With this magic sword, it gave him godlike powers, of literally making him into an unstoppable Hulk. No modern weapon can stop a f***ing man with a magic sword. His only goal is to hunt down all his bullies, all their families, and destroy anyone who will get in his way, going against the whole world with pure rage and showing absolutely no mercy. This Manwha is honestly a horror story for these bullies, because imagine having a Hulk rip and tear everything just to get to you, to end your life in the most brutal way possible. Not quick, but slow and painful deaths. Seeing all these bullies' faces going from coffee confident to despair and shaken that no amount of wealth, force, and power can stop death from getting to them. If you like the sound of this badass story, the manhwa is called Rooftop Swordmaster. It is completed, and on my list, I rate this manhwa fire, and I highly recommend you check this one out. So happy reading.